What's up, Lions? Welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to be talking about a guy who's 26 years old and he's never had a girlfriend. 26 years old, never had a girlfriend. And as hard to believe as that is for some, perhaps even most, it is really not that uncommon, guys. So this guy, his name's Dan. He's 26 years old and he's never had a girlfriend. Now, looking at the video and just looking at this particular picture right here, I can notice some things that Dan can do from an external standpoint to make himself a little bit more appealing to the opposite sex. But we're going to watch the video because let me tell you something. Working on your appearance will do a lot for you, but working on your appearance can't fix things that's going on the inside of you that are broken. So we're going to listen to the video. We're going to listen to what Dan has to say. Then we're going to come back and I'm going to give you my thoughts on it. But let me just say, this was very brave. This is very brave for him because the internet lives forever. Once you put something on the internet, you have to basically go in with the mindset that it's going to be out there. So when you put something on the internet that's personal about yourself and you share something, a personal story about yourself, you're pretty much opening yourself up to the world, to scrutiny, people to just be insensitive, make all kind of ridiculous, hateful remarks. So I want to commend Dan for being brave, because most men would not do this. Men or women would not do something like this and be this vulnerable and put something this personal out there on the internet. So the first thing I want to do is, congratulate Dan on doing something like that. It was very courageous. So he may be 26 and never had a girlfriend, but he's done something that most 26-year-old men who have had a girlfriend or plenty of girlfriends would never do. And that's come on the internet and admit something so personal and so private that he's never had a girlfriend. So I can only imagine the type of emotions that he has going on the inside. Because guys, let me tell you this, as toxic as relationships are today, I'll never say that you guys should walk away from a relationship. I know a lot of guys say that. I know a lot of guys in this space say just forget relationships and forget marriage and you don't need it and just do other things. But I've said this on tons of videos and I'm going to say it again, guys. We were created to be we are social creatures. We are social beings. God created us that way. We were created to interact with other human beings, to have relationships, to form friendships, families, all that stuff. So I will never say that. I will never say that you should never seek out a relationship. You should never seek out a marriage. But what I am saying is we need to be informed on what's going on. We need to be educated. The legal system and the dating and the social norms of our culture today is completely backwards and it's completely flipped. And until we can get this culture and this society back where it needs to be, we need to be skeptic, double skeptic, and triple skeptic on who we decide to get into relationships with. A lot of people have chosen to get passports to find wives. That is something I support because other societies and other cultures, their outlook on relationships and dating, and in particular marriage and the marital laws, are more favorable for a man to be able to make that step and take that sacrifice. So let's listen to what Dan's got to say, and then we'll come back and we'll break down.
So I'm a 26-year-old and I've never had a girlfriend in my entire life. The reason that is because I've just been a very, very shy person who stays to themselves and doesn't really go anywhere or do anything. I come from a household where I have no siblings.
All right. So first thing, Dan says that he's a very shy person. This means that Dan's personality, he is an introvert. People who are introverted, especially guys, have a very hard time meeting girls. Reason being is because girls do not approach men. It is very rare that a girl will approach a guy that she's romantically interested in. The most that she will do is throw him signs. She'll smile at you, she'll wink at you, she'll look at you, maybe she'll come sit close to you or next to you, try to strike up a conversation, but she will never just outright come out and say that she finds you attractive and she wants to get involved with you romantically, possibly set up a date and see where it goes. Women do not do that. The most they will do is throw you a sign, and then they expect you as the man to pick up on that sign and take it further. The problem with introverts is they are very hesitant to make the first move and to take the first step. Even when you throw them signs, they are still very hesitant to do it. And most introverts are not even knowledgeable enough to know that signs are being thrown at them. They're very ignorant when it comes to the way that women open themselves up as an opportunity for a man and they're interested in to pursue them. So there's two things that work against guys who are introverted. Number one, they're shy and they don't typically take the initiative and try to talk to a woman. Number two, they're very ignorant when it comes to the displays of affection that women give to men that they are interested in. So him being an introvert is an obstacle, a huge obstacle for him to be able to even get a girlfriend. So that's his first problem. Let's go back.
That are close to my age, and I was pretty much raised by my grandparents who were in their 70s at the time. Never really did anything but just play video games all day and live with some old people. And I really think I stunted my growth in doing that. I thought in doing what I was...
All right, guys, so he touched on something else. So Dan says that he was raised by his grandparents. So the fact that he was raised by his grandparents, he was raised in a elderly household. We know that grandparents, most people's grandparents they don't do much. Old people pretty much sit around, they watch TV, they may garden, maybe his grandfather went fishing, but they tend to do elderly things. You know, their life is winding down. They're all about relaxation and family and just taking it slow. Dan mentioned that him growing up in the elderly home, he pretty much just played video games. He didn't really go anywhere. This is an issue because if you're not getting out of the house, if you're not getting out of the home, how are you going to be able to meet people? And parents who have children, they do things with their children. They take them to parks, amusement parks, movie theaters, all kinds of stuff. They have family social outings. The fact that he grew up with his grandparents, it sounds like what he's saying, his grandparents did not do that. They're elderly, so they're typically, old people typically aren't into amusement parks and things like that. So from what he's saying, the social outings that a kid would typically get with his parents was lacking because he grew up with his grandparents. So how he chose to spend his time for the most part is playing video games. Relationships are not found in video games, guys. What was created to be a hobby has turned into a detriment for a lot of young men. Instead of getting out there and doing social things and interacting with other human beings, which is how you form relationships, a lot of us have reclused back into playing video games. That gives you self-fulfillment from an entertainment standpoint, but it does not fulfill your need for intimacy, relationships, and loneliness. And it certainly will not find you a girlfriend. So that's the second thing that we see here. Let's get back to the video.
I was kind of avoiding my home life, and I was just so afraid of winding up like my parents, becoming like alcoholics, and the people I was around in school, that I basically just wound up avoiding everything. I wound up avoiding drinking or anything. I don't think you need to drink to have fun, but I just was too scared to try anything or do anything So I just stayed to myself, and I stunted my growth as a person, I think. So now I'm
All right, so Dan kind of goes into why he grew up with his grandparents. It seems like his parents, his mother and father, suffered from alcoholism. So he had a dysfunctional upbringing. His parents weren't able to raise him, and because of that dysfunction, it kind of made him very standoffish when it came to doing certain things. He's not very adventurous. He's not the type of person to step out and take a chance. So it made him very safe, where he just did what was safe and he didn't take chances. The problem with not taking chances is if you don't take chances, you can never win. You have to take chances in life at things. In order to win something, there's a chance that you'll lose. In order to achieve something, there's a chance that you'll fail. In order to get a girlfriend, there's a chance that when you ask that girl out, she'll say no. Like in order to get a date, so the things that we need to gain in life, the things that are most precious for our social being, for our intimacy, for us to function as normal human beings, they require taking chances. So, because of Dan's dysfunction, what was going on in his household with his parents, it played a part in him being so introverted, and it made him not take chances. And like he said, you don't have to drink in order to have fun, but it seems like he avoided a lot of the normal things that normal teenagers do, and he doesn't have to drink. So normal teenagers do go to parties. You don't have to drink when you go to the party. You don't have to smoke when you go to the party, but that is a part of being a teenager, going to parties and places and venues where other teenagers are at so you can form relationships. And this is how you build up your social skills. This is how you build up your ability to interact with different people. And Dan has basically missed out on that part of his teenage life. He didn't go to parties, he didn't go to venues, he didn't interact with other teens in other social settings because of his dysfunctional upbringing. So we can see already that there is some dysfunction that went on in Dan's early life, and that has proceeded into his later years. And he's only 26, so he's still a young guy. So let's go back.
I'm trying to fix that, and my goal this year is that by the time I'm 27, I want to have at least a prospect of being in a relationship. I tried online dating. It really hasn't worked out for me. I haven't done that great of a job, too, with the online dating because I don't take pictures of myself at all. So, like, just finding pictures of myself to use. I know a lot of people have those really nice, like, photographer taken where they've got their hand on their knee and they got a really nice backdrop. But my picture is just me, like, doing a selfie almost. And it probably comes across as pretty lazy in comparison. But like I said, I just don't take pictures. I don't have any social media accounts that I use to pull pictures from. I just been pretty much a recluse, and there's another area where I struggle to adapt. But I'm making things happen.
So Dan admits that he's become a recluse. That is the perfect word to describe what he's saying. And you cannot find a girlfriend if your life you have turned it into and you have become a recluse. You have basically shut yourself off from the outside world, from forming any kind of relationships, especially intimate ones. Let's go back.
Happen for myself at the same time. This year, starting in January, is when I set that goal. I've really been going through a lot of my stuff and updating it, just like my sense of style. I had some raggedy shoes I got rid of that had like lawn clippings hanging out of them because the sole was coming undone. I don't have to find the one this year, but I do need to make sure that we're not becoming a wizard, because that's what I'm on pat. They say if you make it to 30 and you're still a virgin, you become a wizard. So I guess I made it to become an acolyte, but I'm trying to just get in a relationship. And that isn't a concern of mine either, like being a virgin. that doesn't really bother me as much as just not having any connection with people and just spending all my time alone by myself for most days. I don't have anybody in my field either. I work pretty much in the electrical field, which is 100% men. It's most of the men I work with are between the ages of 50 and 80. So some of them like have grandkids or great grandkids. It's not really like a.
So, guys, even his work, most of us make our friendships and form our friendships in our younger years and in our adolescent times of our life. So that's elementary school, middle school, high school, college, and even at jobs. When you're in high school, you work a job. You work at McDonald's, you work at Chick-fil-A, you work somewhere, and then you meet friends that way. And then as you graduate college or tech school, whatever you do after high school, then you meet friends at your job. But he's in a job and has a position where he's working with older people. He said most of the guys he worked with are in their 50s and they have grandchildren. So he's not even able to make friends in his age group at his job. So because of his dysfunction and him staying away from the normal activities that most teens indulge in and get into in their teenage years, it has stunted him socially, which he acknowledges, and has put him in this very awkward situation now where he doesn't really have any close, intimate friendships. He doesn't have a social life. So in order to get that now, what would come naturally from him being forced into elementary, forced into middle school, forced into high school, because these situations force us to be in social settings. And us being forced in these social settings, we naturally form relationships. Because he made it his mission not to do the things that's socially acceptable amongst kids and amongst teenagers, he's now an adult. He doesn't have any close, personal, intimate friendships, and he's at a job where he can't even possibly make friends with people in his same age and demographic. So he's in a very awkward position where in order for him now to have relationships, intimate relationships, he will now have to go outside his everyday natural life situations and circumstances. He's going to have to actively do something different in order to change the trajectory of how his life is now. And he's seeing it and he knows it. So he's talking about setting these goals, doing this, doing that. And this is what he would have to do. He needs to do that because he missed the opportunity to form these relationships when most of us form these relationships, which is in our childhood, our teens, and in our college years.
Demographic you could date people in. And I'm reading this book. It's called No More Mr. Nice Guy. And it sounds like an incel book when I say that because it sounds like some of the things people will type on Reddit. But what it's actually about is kind of how people who come from a traumatic environment oftentimes adopt these beliefs that serve them in childhood and don't necessarily serve them in adulthood. And that's something that's I definitely feel like is true for me. And it's really just all those little irrational fears I think I have are from a traumatic childhood. And I'm trying to overcome them and recognize them. And that's been a very helpful book to do that. I think one of the examples that applies to me, they were talking about how people, when they're unsatisfied with their life, will often turn towards various forms of addiction to get what they're not getting in life. And when I played video games for 10 to 16 hours a day, that's definitely something I did. I just wasted so many years, and it's...
Guys, what did he just say, guys? He played video games for 10 to 16 hours a day. Why did he do it? Because something in his life was lacking. Guys, when we are missing fundamental things in our lives that every human being needs, when we are lacking something, whether it be love, attention, respect, whatever it is that you are lacking, you will find something to fill in that space. You will find something to compensate for what it is you don't have. People that lack love fill that void with all kinds of things, guys. Whether it be alcohol, whether it be drugs, whether it be reckless, dangerous sex, promiscuous sexual situations. We find a lot of things to fill those voids with. Here, Dan has filled those voids with playing video games 10 to 16 hours a day. I tell people this all the time. Most of the people that play video games 10, 12, 16 hours a day like Dan will much rather be out with a girl on a Friday, Saturday night. They'd rather have a girlfriend. They'd rather have a girl they can take road trips with, they can go on vacations with, hell, that they can Netflix and chill with. But when something is lacking in a person's life, that's why they can play video games that length of time on a day in and day out basis, because something is lacking. And the fact that he lives with his grandparents, and he don't say how long he's been doing this, but as a parent, if you have a child that's playing video games 10 to 16 hours a day and they living in your house, that's when as a parent you have to step in and see what the heck is going on, because my son should be out with his friends. My son should be doing something productive, unless he's getting paid for it. If he don't have a channel on Twitch, if he ain't streaming, if he's not getting any kind of endorsements or anything like that, that's when a parent needs to step in. But we already see from Dan's own mouth that he came from a dysfunctional family. His parents are in no position to properly parent him and to properly guide him and to properly lead him. So it fell back on the grandparents. And with the grandparents being elderly, they probably don't know what's going on with Dan. Because when they was growing up, when they was raising his parents, that wasn't a thing. The kids back then wasn't playing video games 10 to 16 hours a day. And the fact that his parents have alcohol problems, suffer from alcoholism, having him grow up in an abusive environment, there could be something going on with the grandparents. There could be something going on with grandpa, with grandma. We just don't know. But the fact that he's playing those video games for that length of time lets you know that there is something severely lacking in his life. And he knows it. He says it. So he knows where he's at. And he knows why he's doing certain things, which is the first step to fix any problem. So let's go back to the video.
It's such a point of anxiety for me. I just want to get over that fear so I can move on with my life and focus on other stuff. Because beyond this, my life, I would say, is fairly good. My health isn't that great. And that just comes down to me not taking great care of myself and being kind of depressed as a result of all this. But I wouldn't even say I'm depressed anymore. I don't have a fulfilling life, I would say, at this point in my life. I'm just trying to fix that, though. But yeah, I recently set a 43-day goal of, I had made myself a list of things to do, and I'm actually going to be taking some time off of work to focus on this, because I have a tendency of working a lot, and then I'll just do that to compensate for not focusing on other stuff, because working is easy for me. I understand that I'm good at it, but when it comes to stuff I don't know, I struggle with that.
Guys, that's why a lot of young men and middle-aged men play video games 10 to 16 hours a day. He said, I tend to work a lot and avoid these things that give me anxiety, like trying to go out and find a girlfriend, trying to meet friends. I tend to work a lot. Why? Because I'm good at it and I know how to do it. Same thing with the video games. I'm good at the video games. I know how to play the video games. I know the boards. I know what all the weapons do. I know what the items do. I know how to do it. There's no anxiety. There's no stress that comes from playing these video games. This is why he can indulge so much time into it. The same remark that he made about his work, why he can invest so much time working, is the same reason why he invests so much time into these video games. Because it gives him the complete opposite feeling of what not having a girlfriend and not being able to make intimate friendships with people does. There's no anxiety, there's no fear.
So I'm kind of forcing myself to limit the amount of hours I put into my business and just focus on getting out there. Reading this book, this self-help book. I plan on reading 3 self-help books in like the next week. While I'm working, I'll listen to just some Audible stuff, and I also plan on kind of going out of my comfort zone just by going to different places, just driving different places. Like I was thinking about driving to Chicago and just going there for like a weekend or something, because I've never really even traveled either, and that's comes again to my fear of people. I just don't deal with people. About the closest I come to dealing with people on a day-to-day basis is when I go to the gas station or something. I'll get like a diet soda, and hey, how you doing? And you want to get our gift card or our loyalty card? And that's about the most social interaction I get some days, and that's a problem. I want to do better. I plan on doing better. I've got a whole slew of goals over there that I set for myself. I kind of was inspired by the 43-day thing by actually the 45 days when I did Lent. I gave up some stuff during Lent, and I think that was a very rewarding experience. I also read the Bible. I'm not saying that I'm a super religious person when I say that, but I'm just saying I'm trying and I'm putting forth the effort. I go to church on Sundays the last few months, and I've just been trying. I don't know. Things may not work out for me, and I'm okay with that, but I at least have to be able to say I put forth a solid effort, and I still have.
All right, guys, that's pretty much the end of the video. But let me touch on one other thing that I didn't touch on. So I touched on all the other stuff, him being introverted, him being raised by his grandparents, him coming from a dysfunctional household. His parents are, there's alcoholism, alcohol abuse there. He's become a recluse. His dysfunction has stopped him from developing close, intimate, personal relationships. And this has led to him not having a girlfriend. The fact that he's a recluse now, you'll never get a girlfriend being a recluse, because girls are outside of your that bubble that you create for yourself. So in order to find one, you have to get outside that bubble. The other thing that I would say is, one thing you'll probably never hear me say, guys, is call someone ugly. That actually think ugly is a pretty ugly word. But to me, for someone to be ugly, they have to be, I consider hideous to be ugly. So I don't think the fact that he can't get a girlfriend has anything to do with how he looks. It has everything to do with everything else he said. That is the main culprit. Is there some things that he could work on externally? Of course. He could work on his grooming. I tell guys, if you're struggling to get girls and you think it's an issue with how you look, how you project, and how you present, I always go with clean cut. That is. Is there some girls out there that don't like clean cut? Yes, but we want to shoot for the majority. We don't care about the outliers. So yes, he can groom himself. He can get a better haircut. He can definitely dress better, which he already acknowledged. I mean, he's got on nothing stylish. I mean, he's sitting in his house. He don't have to be, but I can tell by how he presents, and he even admitted it, that he threw away some shoes that was raggedy and, that was on their last legs that he should have chucked a while ago. So he can definitely work on his grooming. He needs a different haircut. He can definitely be more clean cut, present himself a lot better. He said his health isn't great because he's not really taking care of himself. So that lets me know that he's not active at all on any level. He's not lifting weights. He's not doing any kind of strenuous activity or even any sports. Because some people don't like working out, guys. Some people think picking up weights and putting them down is boring. Some people prefer calisthenics. Some people just prefer to exercise through activity. They prefer to swim or play basketball. So he's not doing any of that. So that's something that he could and should definitely do is get into some kind of physical activity. If the typical normal exercises is not something that appeals to him, he can definitely work on his appearance and being well groomed. He can definitely work on his wardrobe. But the bigger problem and the biggest issues is what's going on the inside, guys. Because no amount of working out, no amount of clothes, watches, or a haircut can cover up and fix. Well, it can cover it up, but it won't fix what's going on the inside. And that is his biggest issue, is that he's scared to take chances, that he's extremely introverted, that he was raised by his grandparents and he comes from a dysfunctional household, so he didn't have the opportunity to form and build the basic social skills and social understanding on how you meet people and how you operate in that environment. And he's become a recluse as a result of that. These are his biggest obstacles that he needs to overcome. And guys, I notice it might be people watching or listening to this video that can relate to this young man. And I'm gonna tell you what, I can relate to this young man in similar ways, because my early years in life, I was introverted. I was very standoffish because of things that happened in my childhood. Now, it wasn't the alcoholism or anything like that, but I had a lot of things hurled at me in my childhood. Insults, name calling, a lot of things that damaged my self-esteem and my self-image, and that made me very introverted. So I can relate to him being introverted based off of the things that happened to him in his life and based off of his abusive upbringing. So I can relate to him in that sense. One thing I'm a little curious about is that he's 26 years old. He's never had a girlfriend. I'm assuming he's a virgin, guys. He doesn't say it, but I'm assuming he is. Unless he went out there and did something, like he spent money and did something. I'm assuming by him being 26 years old and never having a girlfriend, that also means that he's a virgin. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you get the opportunity, you can go over there and check it out. We watched the whole thing. It's not a very long video. It's 6 minutes and 38 seconds. But I just wanted to shed some light that there are a lot of men today that are suffering like this. This one has a little bit of a plot twist to it, because a lot of what he's suffering is due to the dysfunction that he grew up with. But there's a lot of guys suffering like this who didn't grow up with that particular dysfunction. They just grew up in a single family household with a mother that just told them a whole bunch of nonsense about what women like. And I can relate to that because I grew up in a single parent household. And my mom, when you talk to your mom, they tell you how you're supposed to act with women. But what a woman tells you, even your mom, versus what a woman wants and what a woman goes after, is completely different. Your mom is no different. She will tell you things and say you should act this way, talk this way, do this way. Meanwhile, the women that you do that for or go after somebody else that's doing the complete opposite of what you're saying. Never listen to what a woman says. Always watch what a woman does. Anyway, shout out to Dan. I hope his situation turns around. And if there's any of you out there listening that's been in Dan's situation, or you're in Dan's situation or can relate, leave a comment below. All right, guys, I'll talk to you soon.